In the spirit of Halloween, paranormal or not, what is the scariest, creepiest or most unsettling experience of your life? I'm not super into this stuff, but something happened to me when I was 13. It's mildly creepy, but not spooky or scary. It may even be the most boring ghost story ever. But it definitely happened. So when I was a kid, my best friend in the whole world's name was Beth, and we unfortunately moved the same summer. We used to be able to walk to each other's houses, and now it was a 2-hour drive to see each other. So I was spending a week at her new house that summer. When they bought the house, it was a 3-bedroom with a half-finished attic space. So her moms decided to finish it and put a bathroom in to make it a house with 2 true masters, making the little house much more valuable. So we had put in insulation and drywall, and they tasked me and Beth to do some light spackling. This caused a lot of dust and grime to build up on the extremely old hardwood floors. Okay, now I'm gonna interrupt the story to explain that this was in Jimthorpe, PA, which before it got that name, was a town founded by the Freemasons. It was a very old mill town in central PA, well known for its historic 2-family homes. So dusty floors. But not normal dust, like if you walked across it in bare feet it would barely make an impression in the dust, but if you took a wet washcloth, you could make a dent in it. So the next morning we went up and there were zigzagging lines everywhere. Like someone was writing the letter M over and over. And it was distinct lines, like someone's finger painted with water to make a gap in the grimy floor. And just in the corner you could make out where whatever it was, finally was able to write Mason, but the S was a little Z-shaped and the N was like a soft wiggle, and it was definitely in messy cursive. So when Beth moved into the room, we always joked that her roommate's name was Mason. And at night the TV would turn off and on, and you could hear someone coming up the attic steps, like stomping. But when these things happened, we would yell out, "Stop it, Mason, we are sleeping," and it would stop. The dogs would never come upstairs too. When me and my boyfriend decided to move in together, my lease was up before his, so we spent 2 months living in his tiny suburban apartment before we could move someplace decent for 2 people in the city. His place always made me nervous, mostly because it was a first-floor lower flat, and if you had the windows open they were basically eye level with anyone walking down the main street of this town, including one that was in our only closet, which was a walk-in. I've been weird about people breaking into my house since I was a kid, and this just played into that fear. Anyway, a few weeks in I got sick and went home from work early. He had to work until late, and it was the first time I would be alone. I got home and passed out almost immediately, though, so I didn't think twice about anything. I woke up a few hours later to him petting my hair away from my face, rubbing my shoulders, touching my neck, etc. With my eyes still closed, I smacked his hand away, and told him to fuck off before I stabbed him. I'm hostile as all hell when I just wake up, and turned away before falling back asleep. I woke up again a few hours later to him yelling at me about not locking the door, and how fucking badly that could have ended up for me, alone in the house. He was genuinely scared out about it. Thing is, I distinctly remember chaining the door and locking our deadbolt. I also distinctly remember him being home like 3 hours previously, touching me. I'm telling him this as he goes to put his coat away in the hall closet, and I hear him swear. I go to look, and see the window in our closet is broken, the screen cut. Someone had broken in and left out the front door. I was walking home from my parents. We lived on opposite sides of a 45-acre pasture. I am about 100 yards from my house and it's dusk out. I hear the predator sound, not sure what to call it, gurgle/growl, and I freeze. Almost shat my pants waiting for the 3 red dots on my chest. Many years later I hear it again, this time in a Walmart parking lot. I look over and it was a crow. I never knew they could make that sound. My dad was physically abusive to me. When he got really angry he would make me ride in our truck to this public dock maybe 20 minutes from our house. He would then sit there and berate/beat me in relative quiet. This is also the place he would take me if we were going to go fishing on the lake. aka he wanted to fish, so I got to come with. Hooray underscore. Well, on this particular time he was incredibly angry with me. I had talked back to him after he had been giving me a noogie, holding my head between arm and armpit locked in and using fist to grind hair. He broke my bedroom door in half and put major dents in 2 of my walls. So we're out on the lake, me and my father. I'm thinking this is the time he is going to kill me, thought that quite frequently, to be honest. So he pulls out this 2 foot long steel pipe from the backseat and I'm bracing myself for impact. He then starts asking me about what type of metal etc. I think it is and if I have any clue where he found it etc. He then started to talk about life and a bunch of other shit, didn't even hit me once that time. I was fucking terrified. After my second divorce, scary start, I moved into an apartment in a building reconstructed in the early 70s after a tornado destroyed much of the little city where I live. I chose it because it had some tacky swank appeal that had 70s written all over it, including a mirrored wet bar, shag carpet, and Brady Bunch "The future is now" architecture. I got settled and all was going well. The place was spotless when I moved in, but every time I cleaned, I found little, colored bobby pins, the kind a little girl would wear in her hair. For a while, I just assumed that they were left behind by the previous tenants, but something gnawed at me. There were so many popping up, how could I have missed them when I moved in? They seemed to come out of nowhere. Also, I would hear strange sounds at night, almost like someone softly crying. The pigeons roosting on the roof, I told myself. Then I went to a Reiki session, and the reader told me that there was a spirit hanging around me. She said the spirit was sad and had died young. This made the hairs on my arms stand. But then things calmed down for a while. I found a bobby pin at the community pool like the ones I'd been finding at home, so I convinced myself that I had been bringing the bobby pins home with me in my pool bag. They'd stuck to my wet things and got tossed in, I reasoned. This was the calm before the literal and figurative storm. On a stormy evening during which several tornadoes touched down in the area around the city, the shit got real. The power went out. I lit some candles and turned on my battery-powered weather radio. Rain pounded the roof and flashes of lightning intermittently lit my apartment, casting jagged, jumping shadows. Ho-hum, a normal stormy night for the season. I made myself a sandwich, 2 slices of dark German bread and some carved turkey, and sat on the couch to eat and read something on my Kindle. I was reading and munching when I bit something hard. Yes, it was a bobby pin. As if on cue, the radio cut off, and I heard the soft crying again. Only this time, there was no pretending it was pigeons. It was clearly a scared little girl. Once my initial horror calmed, I felt an intense sympathy for the girl. I spoke aloud, "I'm sorry you're sad and scared," or something like that. "The storm can't hurt you now." The crying stopped. I never heard the crying again, and never found another bobby pin until I was moving out. I took it as the spirit's way of saying thank you, so I kept it. I was home alone since my dad worked third shift when my dog jumped out of bed and woke me up. She proceeded to sprint to the top of the stairs and grow/bark for a good 10 minutes before coming back to my room. When I made my dad come home, he said the front door was open. I went to India for an language immersion camp. Me and about 40 other teenagers went to a temple to learn about its history and culture. On the first day of visiting the temple, a white woman suddenly fell to the ground near a large symbol drawn on the ground, and was clutching her foot, which looked swollen. Her face was red and she held a pained expression. While she was on the ground, she began yelling in a repeated pattern, like she was yelling to the beat of her heart. We had to leave after that. Some of the other kids from the camp told me it was because she was possessed, but the adults told everyone she had a condition. The next day, we went to the temple again. This time, one of our own campers fell to the ground, near the symbol like the white woman. Our camper fell and began yelling in the same exact pattern, crying and looking as if she was in pain. She eventually stopped yelling, but she needed help getting up, still crying. Later on during camp, I noticed she had trouble walking and was acting much more emotional. None of us went near that symbol in the temple after that.